A bevy of opinion polls out today in the province of Alberta. That election coming up in short days. Here, let me tell you the top line numbers. Leger polling puts the NDP in first place, 38%. The PCs and Wildrose back at 30 and 24% respectively. Ecos has the NDP at 39%, the PCs and the Wildrose tied at 23%, and ROI has the NDP again at 38%, PCs at 24%, Wildrose at 21%. There are some slight variations in these polls, but they all show the same trend, and the NDP has never been this high. They've never won election in Alberta. They have never been the government. They have never been this high. They have never been on the verge of this. It could be a majority government for the NDP, or at the very least a minority, if these numbers hold in a few days. Now the question is, will this shock Albertans? Will they be scared and step back from the brink? Will they say, better the devil we know, the PCs, than the devil we don't? I believe the NDP would be an economic disaster for Alberta. I would believe they would give even more to the public sector unions. I believe they would declare war on the energy industry. I believe they would erode personal freedom in that province as well. But could not all of these things be said about Jim Prentice PCs as well? A party that has brought in more than 50 tax hikes in the latest budget, a party whose budget has the largest deficit in Alberta history. How is Jim Prentice really any less of a New Democrat than Rachel Notley? You could point out, as I have, that the candidates for the NDP are often children in school. They are third raters, just filling placeholders, really, that will be elected, like that Ruth Ellen Brazeau, that waitress in Quebec who was elected as an NDP member of Parliament. She was in Las Vegas partying. She didn't even campaign. You'll have a lot of accidental MLAs, but I ask you again, how would a student socialist like some of these 20-year-old kids be any worse than the long-time corrupt PC MLAs? And I say that based on a staggering observation yesterday of Jonathan Dennis, the former justice minister, sacked from cabinet by Jim Prentice over secret facts about his relationship with his wife. He's going through a divorce. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about why the police came to his house, why Jim Prentice kicked him out of cabinet, and why there is a publication ban over his court proceedings. Surely the public has a right to know. And if we don't, surely he should step aside and deal with his personal matters instead of pretending everything's fine. That kind of insider dealing, hey, you lowly voters, don't pay attention, don't trouble your pretty little heads, that kind of disgraceful contempt for the electorate is something I don't think you would even find in the NDP. And so yesterday I tweeted on Twitter, I would vote for the NDP instead of the dirty little club that's been running the province for 44 years. And the NDP was so excited by this tweet, it was retweeted more than 100 times as a sign of the end of times. The seven seals of the apocalypse, the four horsemen are riding. Ezra Levant has endorsed the NDP. Yeah, not really. It is true. If those were the only two options, I would choose the NDP simply to muck out the stables after 44 years of PCs. But there is that third choice. The Wildrose party that was so strong until Danielle Smith colluded with Jim Prentice to dissolve it. A Wildrose party led by Brian Jean, who's done an admirable job being parachuted in there short weeks ago, his own son dying and having that kind of personal tragedy, and yet he has soldiered on doing a fairly good job with no real missteps. The Wildrose party, the only party that will hold the line on spending and government and strengthen civil liberties. So yeah, if it was a two-party system, you bet I would vote for the NDP just to get rid of the equally left-wing but more corrupt PC party. But there is that third choice. And any Albertan who wants to hold on to the strongest GDP and the highest level of freedom in Canada must vote Wildrose. I despise the PCs more than most, but I don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. If I wasn't in exile here in Toronto, I would vote for Wildrose. And everyone disgusted with the PCs, but who believes in smaller government, should do the same. For TheRebel.media, I'm Ezra Levant.